calls across the nation to defund the police.
To end policing as we know it.
Off the charts violence in New York City. 11 people shot in just 8 hours on Sunday.
This is about the police officers who every single day put on that uniform and they run towards danger when we run away from it.
Good stuff. Giddy up. Welcome to the Failure to Stop podcast panel, the number one show where police meet society and culture. Tonight you're tuning into Nightshift, True Crime Tuesday. Beautiful and audacious Andrea Uplate and myself, Eric Tanzi. We bring you 4 shows a week on this channel, starting the week off with True Crime Tuesdays, Nightshift. Then we have Last Call on Thursdays, talking about everything else in the news so that you don't sound like an asshole first responder to your civilian friends. Then we got Comm Center Thursday night with Drew Breezy and Jonathan Bates, which is all about dispatch life, playing all that audio from different dispatches and all sorts of heinous and crazy calls that have come into the 911 centers. And then Friday, our flagship show, which is our Friday breakdowns. If you want to like and support the show, if you're watching on YouTube, we are a live show on YouTube, even though 99% of our listenership comes from podcast world. If you are on the YouTubes, hit that like button. If you're on the podcast audio section, give us a 5-star rating and review on Spotify, iTunes, Podbean, Podkite, wherever you consume your podcast audio. Give us a rating there. It helps us out big time. Also, I think super chats are back. We're out of the sin bin. So I think you can drop some money in here and all that money goes back to the crew, makes this show just that much better, baby. Other than that, tonight's show is brought to you by ghostbed.com/Wolfpack. Sleep so good, it's scary. They had one hell of a President's Day sale. I don't know how much money they took off. I don't know how they stay in business, but you can still use our promo code Wolfpack, and it's the best sleep that you can get in the biz. Listen, if you're a first responder and you're not sleeping on a ghost bed, how are you even doing this job? You're probably not doing a very good job at it, which is why violent crime is up all across the country. You guys all suck at doing your jobs. You need a better sleep. I'm just kidding. We know it's the politicians. We know that. But you know what makes everything a little bit easier? You know what makes dealing with the bullshit just a little bit easier? Getting a good night's sleep on a bed that's made in the good old, help me out here, USA. USA.
USA. USA.
Yes. Get you a bed that sleeps so good it's scary. Right now they've got I think our promo code gets you 30% off. If there's a better deal on the site, just drop Wolfpack or Failure to Stop. Actually drop Failure to Stop in the customer survey. That helps us out a lot there. This is credit for it, but right now 30% off, man. 30% off gets you that cooling technology, those cooling sheets, the cooling pillow, the cooling mattress. Again, all made in the USA. Huge supporters of law enforcement, and one of the oldest American ran bedding companies there is. Pretty cool. That was a new fact that I learned about Ghost Bed. We love Ghost Bed, baby. We've always Mike the Cop sleeps on a Ghost Bed. All the guys are drinking bros. They all sleep on Ghost Beds. Everybody that I know, Dan the Cop, Mike the Cop, the Cop, they all sleep on Ghost Beds. Any news in the true crime world before we jump into tonight's one? What is tonight's topic? 2, let's start with this. 1, how are you doing? 2, what's tonight's topic? And 3, is there any true crime updates before we dive into tonight's topic?
Yes. So I'm doing great. It's good to see you. It's been a couple of weeks. I had a whole different co-host last week. So we got to get back into the groove, into the swing of things.
Yeah.
We tried out a little
like
Jonathan.
swinging.
Yeah.
Sharing podcast partners.
So I'm doing great. And it's good to see you again. And yes, so tonight we're going to talk about the Feeney family murders that took place in Springfield, Missouri back in 1995. And we've got some connections to a past show that we did there as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Hello, everybody. Hey, everybody in the chats. Glad to see y'all tonight. We're going to talk a little updates. Yes, we are going to mention Murdaugh a little bit. That is ongoing and ever-changing, as we all know. But first, let's start. Did you guys hear about these babies in Boston back in November? So there was a 911 call placed in this place, Southie Boston. So it's actually like a really affluent, high-end part of town. Really nice place. A lot of like brick Tudor houses, these kinds of things. And there was a call to 911 about remains located in a freezer in one unit of a 9-unit home. So picture one large home that they've kind of divided it out to where you can rent out different units, right? So I even looked it up, like as of today, one of the units in a place like that goes for around 480, 500,000. That's like 600 feet, one bedroom, one bath. Yeah, that kind of thing. So this is the kind of area we're talking about. So authorities do find these remains, and ultimately they find the remains of 4 babies, 2 girls and 2 boys that were in a freezer. We don't know how long they've been there. They've been very tight-lipped about this. It's something that's kind of investigation is obviously continuing, it's ongoing. The most in detail we've got is that one of the babies is 8 old. Outside of that, we know nothing. So the 2 girls, 2 boys, this particular unit has been owned by the same woman since the early 80s. And I think, if I remember, I think she's now in her 60s, but they have not named suspects. They don't say anything about the lady herself. There's not much information there. I'll be honest that I haven't really looked into it too much, so I could maybe provide more information, but there's really not a lot to be said here other than that. And they're still unidentified, these babies. So I don't know if it's a situation where, this woman had these children that were hers that died, and she put it. Who even knows? But that is an investigation that is actively underway in Boston. As we
sounds
speak.
like a real
Super
cold
bizarre.
case.
All right, I'll give you that.
I'm not proud of that.
Okay. Yeah, that one actually got me. You made me laugh. All right. All right,
Murdaugh.
moving on to
I know
Idaho.
there's a lot going on. I know there's a lot going on in the Murdaugh. Somebody already mentioned it.
We're going to talk Murdaugh.
Watched. Oh, I know, but before we get into it, I watched a little bit of his testimony. Can they just let him kill himself? Can
Daddy,
they just
Papa, Mama.
I mean, can't they do the whole like Epstein thing with him? Just leave him like a perfectly noose-shaped sheet hanging in his bedroom. Just let that guy fucking get it over with. Like, why do we even need this trial? Like, why do we even need to keep going with this asshole? What a disgusting family.
It's so gross. I mean, it really is gross.
And I saw the 3D modeling of how he shot his son. What in the absolute fuck? Have you seen that?
Yeah. And John and I touched on it a little bit, not on that, but on the case a little bit last week on developments from the week prior up until last week. Let me just clear these 2 things real fast, and then we're going to get to Murdaugh. Not much is going on in Idaho, although a couple of you sent this to me. I saw it as well. I take this as really good news. The owner of the rental home that the college students lived in where they were murdered, the owner of that home has now donated the home to the University of Idaho, and the University of Idaho has decided that it will be demolished by the end of spring semester this spring. So they're going to go on and just tear that down. There's absolutely no reason on the planet that anybody would want to live there. We know one interesting fact.
I bet you Lazaro Lopez would rent a room in that bad boy today for the right price. Lazaro Lopez, 100%.
He's
probably with Eric
in the chats. He's in the chats right now. My homegirl made the connection to the Murdaugh thing and that's the show Outer Banks, and my mind was blown. Nothing should blow your mind about the show Outer Banks. It's about kids doing kid stuff with a lot of money, unless that's what you mean, just because there's nothing there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he was texting about that the other day about his homegirl, his what should we call her, Lastro?
Sarah Kelch.
He gave me some ideas. He loves her. So anyway, about Kohberger though, the suspect in the Idaho college murders. We talked before that he was like ugly to women. We know that he had been overweight growing up and was teased by women. So then moving forward, he's lost weight. He's ugly to women. He talks down to any marginalized group. So homosexuals, minorities, anyone in certain kinds of ways, he will talk down to them. He was ugly. He was known in his teaching assistant role to be unapproachable. And he was also very well known as a very, very harsh grader. So what I found interesting is that more than one student have come forward to say that when leading up into the November 13th murders of the four, his critique had become harsher and harsher. And immediately there's a drop off, and he became lenient in his grading the night of the 13th. Ugh. So, like, do you think, like, there was, like, a release, with that? And, like, his stress was building and building, and then he commits this crime, and then now he's, like, I don't know, release some pressure there, some steam?
Sounds awesome to me. I'll bet you sex after murder is pretty fucking dope.
I mean, that's what a lot of literally about.
What? I'm just saying, I bet
literally
it's awesome.
what most of our cases are about.
I know, but like, imagine murdering somebody and then going home to your loved one and having an adrenaline dump all over them.
Come back, John.
You don't tell me for 1 second that you don't think that would be awesome. Like, you don't think sex after murder?
No, of course I don't.
Awesome.
I'm a normal thinking human being. There is not pathology here that is. No.
Let's say it was like what if it was a righteous murder? Like, what if it was like you smoked a pedo?
Can I not just pour a drink?
Pedo stuff, and then come back to the house, pour your little drink, smoke your little stick.
Because I can't think about that stuff.
And then fucking
because I cannot think about that stuff.
Go crazy.
No.
Really?
No.
I bet you'd be the best sex in my life.
Listen. So, okay, number 3, Delphi. Nothing much going on there, but we do know that the bail hearing for Richard Allen has been postponed. That's it. Nothing else interesting there. Now, Murdaugh. Let's talk. We all know, or a lot of us know, that Alec took the stand last week. A lot of crying, a lot of snot, a lot of blubbering. But interesting thing, he admitted for the first time last week, and let's not get this confused with he was forced to tell the truth because he was caught. He, quote, admitted for the first time last week that he, in fact, had been at the kennels where his wife and son were found murdered just minutes or not long within an hour before their deaths. And we know this because audio on a video clip from his son Paul's phone has Alex's voice in it 5 minutes before Paul and Maggie's phones were both turned off and shut off and never to be used again down at the kennels. So Paul was shooting video with his phone down at the kennel. Dad's voice is heard distinctly on the video off to the side. But for the last 2 years, he has claimed vehemently that he had not been at the kennels. The first time he was at the kennels was when he found their bodies. So to me, that in and of itself is huge information. So that was when they finally got into Paul's phone to figure that out. Finally, prosecution closed cross by listing the names of about 4 dozen people: family, friends, fellow lawyers, clients, police, and asked Alec if he had ever, if he'd lied to them about any of this story, the timeline, any of the other things. And he agreed that he had lied to most of them. He said that his testimony is that after a brief visit with Paul and Maggie down at the kennel, he rode the golf cart back to the house to lay down for a bit. The house there at Moselle, again, the house that the housekeeper, Gloria Satterfield, was found dead at a few years ago. He said he laid down for it. He got up at 9:02 p.m. and immediately he started making multiple calls to his son and his wife at that time at 9:02 after there had been zero activity detected on his phone for about an hour. So we just know that before deliberation, jury will travel to Moselle. So the jury will take the field trip out to the hunting grounds. This was at the request of the defense. They want the jury out there. They say that there's no way for them to articulate spatially the relevance of some of these things just by thinking about it in the jury box. Prosecution didn't really want them out because they are afraid it will skew their points because in the last 18, 20 months, there's been so much overgrowth, bushes, trees, tree lines, everything looks very, very different. To describe sound travel and the way things appear or what people could or couldn't see or could or couldn't hear could be very different now than it was then. So that's kind of what's going on. Somebody sent me a message today saying, like, if I talk about Murdaugh, am I going to talk about the fact that they weren't getting a divorce? Am I going to talk about the fact that their marriage was this? And this person seemed very invested, and that's good. I'm not recounting the whole case right now. But we do know that there had been some issues with their marriage. Not sure if they had filed for divorce, but we do know that they were sleeping and potentially living separately.
Obviously, there were some marital issues because he fucking shot her twice. Once through the.
I mean, he smoked them. So,
did you look at the 3D imaging of the shooting? Thought that was fascinating. I thought that was super
it is.
cool.
Those renderings are always there's that one kind of, it's not the same, but of the Delphi Bridge.
Yeah.
Same idea. Yeah.
Wow.
It's incredible.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. It's pretty crazy. But I mean, like shooting his son and then switching guns to go get the wife, and then the son stumbles out and he has to just shoot him right in the face, like point blank range. Like, how do you wake up every day, know that you did that to your son?
Have you seen the body cam footage from the police officers when they first get on site and Alec greets them there?
Yeah.
Okay, if you haven't, I'll send it to you. But I was going to do a reel where I just kind of talk over as he's doing it, because immediately there were like 2 or 3 things that I was like, ooh, like knowing what we know now, like red flag, red flag, red flag.
First of all, if I find my son dead, like I don't know that I could talk.
Can I tell you that what
I don't even want to think about
it.
I don't even want to think about it.
Look, I don't want to keep hard, but I let it go. He was wearing a white t-shirt.
Freshly cleaned.
His son's head had been blown off. When they get there, so they show up and he's talking to them. I don't think they're breathing. Go check on them. Please check on them. He has on a bright white t-shirt, not a speck of even dirt. Nothing.
Yeah. Like my shirt would be covered in blood because I'd be trying to. Right. Like I'd be trying to stuff I'd be trying to stuff my kid's brains back into his skull.
Right. That's even if they have a head. You're everything you can. I don't know. It's
I don't know. I mean, I just wish they would.
Alpha
like I said,
Acres
leave
just
like
said the
one of
body
those-
cam footage.
What's that?
No, just someone in the chat said Alpha Acres body cam footage is so telling, and it really is to be able to see that. His demeanor,
Well,
his
good for him.
that.
They should just leave one of those noose blankets, noose brand blankets, right in his little jail cell there. Let him finish that job, baby.
Or whatever I guess was in like. No, he didn't.
Well, I mean,
I don't believe it for a minute. He didn't even do it. He couldn't even do it himself. He hired someone to kill himself, and that didn't even work out. Like he hired a man on himself, and that didn't pan out.
Yeah. Well, money can't buy you everything. Money can't buy you everything. What's tonight's story?
What's happening?
We got us a John Feeney murder mystery. Whenever you say John Feeney, I don't know anything about this case. And I'm going to break it down as a former law enforcement officer. And believe it or not, I am a former cop. And I will be helping break this thing down. So a lot of people that are tuning in for the first time and you're like, what is this show about? She reads me some true crime stuff and I say what a cop thinks. And this is all to keep first responders awake in their car on night shift. So it's entertaining to them. That's why this show is as long as it is, because we pass the time for those guys so they don't have to listen to the bullshit radio. When you say John Feeney murder, I think of Principal Feeney from Boy Meets World.
He was a teacher, and yes,
He was.
Wasn't he a teacher?
Mr. Feeney. He was. I thought he was the principal. Might have been. Yeah, I guess you're right. He probably was.
Maybe.
I can't remember, but
I thought
Mr.
he was
Feeney.
because that was the plot. Because he has him like
Right.
every year or something.
Yeah, Mr. Feeney. What was his first name though? I don't even remember. Can't remember.
Something British.
John.
He was British. John, maybe.
John Feeney's a pretty fucking British name.
I think so. So
How about another
speaking
ship
of
on
Boy
the
Meets-
boat? Actually, my son today, my wife was like, "Do you want anything
not British.
in
That
your?"
was not British.
She was like, "Do you want any?" You know, my 8-year-old August. He's usually the shy one that like really doesn't talk very much. But this morning, like nobody had any coffee, and she was like, "Augie, would you like some yogurt?" And he was like, "Yes, ma'am." She's like, Do you want anything in your yogurt? You want like blackberries?" And he's like, "Oh, I would like some chocolate, please." And we were all just like, I like spit coffee through my nose because I never like that's just so far like out of the realm of what
That's
he
not
would
him.
normally do. So funny though.
Yeah, that's hilarious. That's so cute.
Pretty
Get
good.
some
pretty good.
chocolate. Ben Marsh says his name is George Feeney. What's up, Marsh?
Oh, it was George Feeney, which is also British.
Mm-hmm. Hey,
So I'm taking
Bosco.
crumpets for George.
All right. So speaking of Boy Meets World and all these other things, let's take it back a little bit. So this murder took place in 1995. It is, as of yet, unsolved. I can't wait to hear y'all's opinion on this. I kind of touched on it on the Instagram story, but we've spoken multiple times. Does a terrible, terrible personal character make you a murderer? It does not. You could be. But you could be just so awful that everybody kind of wants you to be the one who has done it, and maybe you didn't.
And then in
We'll
that
see.
case, who gives a shit? Like, let's just find you guilty anyway. Like, if nobody likes you.
Just
That's how the
'cause
justice
nobody
system
likes you.
should work. That's how the justice system should work.
I heard you the first time.
Nobody likes you. And we all think you did it. We don't need evidence. Fuck you. It's like Russia right
All
now.
right, so
It's like we
Right, we're not-
don't know the entire facts about why you're invading Ukraine, but we've always hated you, and so you're probably guilty of everything anyway. So fuck it, let's go. And I'm for that. I'm for that. I do want to know who really started this war, but at the same time, I'm like, fuck it, it's Russia. Like, who cares? Like, let's go.
I'm not invested in that any more than I need to be at this point.
You should be, because
I'm
it's going to be the
not.
end of our demise.
Ah,
It's going to be the end of
everything's
us.
gonna be
It's
our
the
demise.
end of the world as we know it.
As we know it. It's the
That's
end.
not how that
All
song
right,
goes. There's no
1995.
repeating in the song. Yeah, which is when that song came out.
Let me take you back. Let's talk about some current pop in 1995. All right, just to set the scene. Let's see what it looked like in Springfield, Missouri, 1995. Brad Pitt was voted sexiest man alive by People magazine. That was y'all. That was 28 years ago.
He probably still is like
Moss.
the world's hottest man.
Not.
No?
He wasn't then. No. I can't.
he
I don't
was.
know.
That's a
I can't. I think because
good-looking
everybody
dude.
loves him.
He's
I'm not
such a
saying
good
he's not
looking
good
guy.
looking.
It's like Jennifer Aniston.
Didn't say he wasn't. I'm not saying that he wasn't. I think that when everybody is like behind the one person, I have a hard time. I don't know. But Kate Moss and Johnny Depp, we're still going strong. You ready for this one? R.I.P. Coolio's Gangsta Paradise was Song of the Year.
Let's go.
20
Great
years
song.
ago.
Great song.
Braveheart won Best Picture.
Oh, good movie.
The OJ trial was wrapping up.
Ooh.
Some actually, side note, some call this case we're talking about tonight the OJ trial of Missouri or of Springfield. That's how some people think about it. The Macarena went viral. Oh,
Can you do the
done without
Macarena?
that.
Can you do the Macarena without the song?
Could.
Do you remember it? Yeah, Yeah, it looks
I don't
good.
know. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Yeah, you were in your 30s
Drew
back
Barrymore. Now that my early onset is kicking in, I can't remember that stuff.
I think you
Drew
were going through
Barrymore.
menopause when Macarena came out.
During the Macarena.
You're getting hot flashes doing the hey, Macarena.
Oof.
It's hot in here. I'm dizzy.
Ooh. Drew Barrymore / David Letterman. That feels like,
did she
for some reason,
really?
that almost feels like even longer ago. Do you not remember that? She stood up and like the cameras couldn't see it, but she
How
turned
old
around
was
and
she?
faced him. She was young. What is she now? Late 40s, I think.
Yeah.
That was 28 years ago. She was young. She was probably early, I don't know, in her 20s.
Okay. Damn, dude.
I mean, old enough to be okay, but
Did she
Toy
ever
Story
show her
was the
titties
first
in any other
computer.
movie? Drew Barrymore get naked in any other movies? That's why I'll Google that tonight.
I don't know. I don't remember. Toy Story was the first computer animated film. Windows 95, baby, was in the homes. Windows 95. The Starbucks Frappuccino had just been released, and eBay on the internet. So that takes you back a little bit to 1995. All right,
man, good old eBay, dude.
eBay.
That was
So
awesome.
all of that was that year 95. There's a lot of good stuff going on.
Yeah, 95. I got my first surround sound. Got my first surround sound set up. I got it off of eBay. Pretty cool.
Oh, that's nice.
Ran surround sound through my bedroom so I could listen to music and watch surf videos on my VHS.
We don't need everyone
teacher
to tell
promoted
us
to principal, then took a job teaching at the university they all went to. Andrew Toole, fucking catch up, dude. What are you're like 30 minutes behind.
No, I'm more concerned with all the people telling us they weren't alive in 1995.
Really? I was like 11.
There's been a couple. Me too.
Yeah, I was 11. Yeah. Yeah, you were.
All right. We're going to talk. So the Feeney murders. Now we will kind of button it up a little bit because there are some pretty yucky, serious things. We're going to talk about some stuff that happened to kids, and it gets a little yucky for a while. So,
good thing we're all first responders that listen to this show.
I know, but I'm just saying, like some of the
She's like, get ready, guys. This is nothing you've ever heard before.
No, I'm talking about just like the humor is going to change a little bit because we're going to talk about some pretty yucky stuff.
Yeah.
So first, though, I do want to mention we did a show on the Springfield 3. If y'all didn't listen to it, it's a super crazy case. Same town. It's Springfield, Missouri. And it was a woman, her teenage daughter, and teenage daughter's friend after a graduation party night from high school. All went missing to this day. That was in 1992. So it was 3 years prior to the case we're talking about tonight. Same town, unrelated entirely, but they all three went missing. Nothing, not hide nor hair of them since. Nobody's recovered. No evidence that we know of that's substantial in any kind of way. It was a crazy, crazy story. Go back and listen to that. But that was called the Springfield 3. And then 3 years later, this case happens. Same town. And so when I did that show on the Springfield 3, quite a few of you wrote in and said, wow, that's where I live. Or I remember when that happened. My brother lived there or whatever. So same thing. We're going right back there again tonight. We're going to talk about John and Cheryl Feeney. They had been married for 13 years. They were parents to Tyler, a little boy who was 6, and their daughter Jennifer, who was 19 months. John was a science teacher at the local high school and had been for quite a while. Cheryl was a very successful nurse. She was team leader of the gynecological surgery department at the local hospital. The it was Cox Hospital. Funny bridge again, because the Cox Memorial was 3 years prior, when the Springfield 3 went missing, some of the speculation was that they were buried under the parking garage there because the parking garage was just getting constructed. And there was a lot of open space and concrete being poured during the same time they went missing. So that was one of the theories, that their bodies might be under that parking garage. So that's where Cheryl worked. Very successful there and really enjoyed her job. We don't know a ton about their marriage. Cheryl was pretty abundantly known to be very quiet in terms of her feelings and personal life. She was known to really enjoy her job. Clearly, she did well at it based on the position she had. And she really enjoyed being a mom and raising her babies. So a lot of people have said the same things, that kind of, those are the two things about her that were consistent. Her mother was interviewed. I listened to an interview with Mom in preparation for the show, and Mom's a little bit older now and not in great health, but she did say that that there had been a time or two that Cheryl had talked to her about potentially leaving John. So we know that their marriage was certainly not ideal. So there was times when she had mentioned to Mom that she might think about leaving, but never any detail on that to her mom. Her mom didn't really know much else about that. Cheryl was adopted as a baby to her parents. And anyway, that's all her mom would really say, just that she was a sweet, sweet woman that was very, very quiet. So then we know that John was brought up with his dad being a pastor. They were kind of in a Bible Belt part of town. His church was pretty fundamental. Like divorce was a big time no-no. And not only was divorce a no-no, but just kind of like the idea of it. Like if you, like there's been I've read some interviews with people who were friends with John growing up, and like one of them as an adult did get a divorce. And so John welcomed this guy into his like home church with his family, but he lied about the guy being divorced. Like he wouldn't even tell the rest of them that. So there's kind of reason to know that, because we'll just see if it plays into the case as we go on. So let's talk a little character references for John. We really don't have a lot on Cheryl. If she was doing bad things and, you know, it wasn't known. John, however, as time has gone on and as the case went on, we learned that he was an adulterer many times over. But it even goes so far as to, he had some like inappropriate conduct with the students in his class, the girls in his class. They were high schoolers, keep in mind. One instance, I think he was on the phone with them, which I'm not sure why he was even on the phone with them at all. That's kind of glossed over. But he asked them specifically if they were naked. There was a show.
I mean, I always, in fairness, whenever I'm talking to somebody, I usually ask them right off the bat, "Are you naked?"
If you had a 17-year-old high school student and you were their teacher.
Well, I wouldn't be a teacher.
So, I know.
But if I call you, I usually always ask, "Hey, what are you wearing right now?"
You do not.
I do every time I talk to you. I've said it every time. You've never had a problem telling me what you're wearing. I have.
I don't think you've asked me if I'm naked.
No, what are you wearing right now? And you're usually like, "Oh, some pajamas and some Crocs, you know, or something stupid, or I'm wearing my running shorts."
All of that happens. So he had the phone conversation where we know he asked them that, right? We know that he played a game called, like Vampire the Master, or it used to be called something else. It's changed names a couple of times. The Mystery, the Masquerade, I think the Masquerade, something like that. It was a kind of a creepy online game where you can become a vampire and like basically like lord over people and like murder them. And he would play this with his students. Just super weird stuff. He also had affairs with a lot of the teachers he worked with. So this conference that we're going to talk about him going to, he's known. Okay, John knows about it. I'm not going to ask you, John. So we know that when he's gone to this conference before, this teaching conference, he has had affairs with women there, other teachers. There was a video that came out of him and another male teacher and another female teacher on a boat one summer. This guy's out just kind of living it up outside of his family. Did you get the media assent or no?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we can show their family picture if you want to get an idea. Yeah, there he is. Not a looker.
What are you talking about, dude? That dude's handsome, bro. Look at that mustache. Got them glasses.
No, listen. I'll be honest. I like a mustache. That's not the one. Oh, okay. So here's a picture. This is, I think,
God,
much more
looks like a
indicative of what he is.
pedophile.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I think the yearbook picture does him way more justice than.
Yeah, it does.
More flattery than it deserves.
How's this guy fucking smashing all these?
So, well, exactly.
teachers?
So that's what even Cheryl's mother said. She even said, like, in her 90s, and she was like, he was kind of tubby and he was not real tall, and he kind of had, she was like, we never really saw what Cheryl saw in him. Like a lot of people said that. Anyway, so
This married dude is hooking up with all these other married teachers or single teachers or both.
And they were married too. I think all four of the ones that we're going to talk about that testified at the hearing were married, because they had to actually, all four of them, within like a week up until a day before their witness testimony or character witness testimony, told their husbands, because it was going to come out that they had been doing that.
Dude, how do you think that conversation went down?
Oh, it's awful. I mean, it's horrible to think about all of it.
Just don't do it.
It's awful. Awful. So that was going on. He was inappropriate with the kids. He had all this extramarital stuff going on. These women did as well. It's just a whole big, nasty cesspool of gross.
I guess there's not really much to do in Springfield, Missouri. So it's probably like,
I mean, his wife seemed to figure it out. She just put her head down and went to work and took care of her kids.
Right. But, maybe those other teachers and this guy, they want a little bit more out of life. They want a little bit more excitement. They couldn't find that in Springfield, Missouri.
It gets really weird, though, because
love in a hopeless place.
Well, one of the teachers said that she remembers being with him when his wife was pregnant with the baby, the youngest. And he seemed like, her testimony was that he seemed excited for the baby. It's almost like he was talking to these women in a happy way about his marriage, like about his family. But still, I don't know. It's really weird.
Maybe he told him that it was an open relationship.
They didn't testify to that. Not one of them said.
Oh. They just were like, man, this guy was like, did it hurt when you fell from heaven? And they were like, yeah. And then we hooked up. The husbands are like, man, what the fuck?
Yeah, I don't know. It blows my mind. So let's talk about what happened this night. So on February 25th, 1995, that was a Saturday. That morning, John stayed home with the kids and Cheryl went out to do a little bit of shopping. She came home. They all ate lunch together. And then
by the way, really quick, February 25th was this last Saturday.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun,
dun. So it's a Saturday.
28 years.
Yeah. Wow.
All right. So
it's a Saturday.
So she comes home. They eat lunch together. The whole family. Again, the kids are 6 and 19 months. He then packs a bag and leaves. He's going to Interface 95. It was a teacher's workshop that was an annual event. He went every year, and it would go on from Sunday through a couple days into the week. So he packs his bags and leaves. She says goodbye to him, and that's that. All right. Well, little Jennifer had been getting over an ear infection. They'd been kind of dealing with that. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, or why that might be relevant as part of his reasoning for some things later on. But so he leaves, gets on the road. He's going to this conference that was about 90 miles away from the family home. So he gets there. He meets up with one of the other teachers, a female that was there. They leave to go to dinner. Well, while they are going to dinner, or they're coming back from dinner, I should say, and he gets pulled over. So this is one of our first actual timestamps we have that's concrete, okay? Keep in mind, mid-90s, your cameras in places like hotels are far and few between. And if they did have them, they're probably taped that are going to get taped over the next night if nothing's happened. So, it's not like we can pull up like we can now and track per stoplight and per hotel, like people's movements. You couldn't do that. So you kind of have to rely on things like this. Like he gets a speeding ticket. Boom. That's one concrete time. So since he got the speeding ticket 90 miles away from home, this is an interesting law that they had there in their jurisdiction. It's a bit antiquated, but the story goes that since he was over X amount of miles from home, they were going to take his license. He had to go to the station and physically pay for the ticket there to retrieve his license back so he wouldn't skip town without paying the ticket.
Right.
So that's what happens. He and the woman go back to the hotel. They had previously in years past had sex. So they go back to the hotel at the same time, but instead of retiring into the hotel together, he tells her he has a headache. They were going to go to like some dinner function or party that night. So they part ways around 9:15. So that's the last she has any interaction with him. She goes back to her room, goes on about her night. He calls home a couple of times, and I think no one answers. He's not too worried as the weekend goes on, by the way, when he calls and no one answers, because he's justifying it by saying that since the baby had an ear infection, maybe Cheryl had taken the phone off the hook so it wouldn't disturb her if she's finally asleep and these kinds of things. So that's his rationalization for this. So he leaves the apartment or the hotel that evening after he splays with the lady and goes to the police station around 10:30 p.m. So that's another hard time. He's still 90 miles from home at the police station. At 10:30 p.m., paying his $60 and getting his license back. Now, from 10:30 that night until at least 7 o'clock the next morning, we don't have concrete evidence on where John was. You will hear that there have been witness testimonies that they heard noises in his room at night. That's speculation. We don't know if there were in fact noises or if that even means that he was in the room that night, or what's going on there. So that's John. That's what's going on with him. Well, back home, 90 miles away in Springfield, Mom and Tyler and Jennifer get ready for bed. They all have on night clothes. Saturday night comes and goes. Sunday around, I believe her mother calls her. They kept in pretty close contact. No one was answering. Her brother calls. He calls again the next day. Then John is calling some point on Sunday, but nobody's really talking to each other. No one's too worried at this point. So this was Saturday night, then Sunday. Come Monday morning, now this would be when Cheryl would leave around 5 a.m. to go to her shift at the hospital, right? So babysitter's supposed to come over. Babysitter can't get in touch with Cheryl. So she calls and calls and calls. When she can't get in touch with Cheryl, she starts calling John at school. She calls his school, not knowing much about his conference or anything like that. He wasn't even supposed to be at school, right? So, excuse me. So she calls the school. They eventually get in touch with John. Meanwhile, other people are calling. The hospital's getting concerned that Cheryl's not showing up. So they start calling friends and family, all these things, because it's really out of character for her not to be there at work when she's supposed to be. So eventually, John's mom, so Cheryl's mother-in-law, and she's also her coworker, goes to the house. When she gets to the house, this is Monday morning. No one's seen them for probably about 36, 40 hours by now. She gets to the house. She knocks on windows. She's getting a little concerned. I think she's starting to have that weird feeling that, something's just not right. She opens the door and the door is unlocked. As soon as she opens the door, she sees that the first room she sees looks like it's in disarray, and she is alarmed. So she immediately comes back out and calls local deputies. When they get there, this one guy gets there. We're going to talk about how this goes. I think that the population in Springfield at that time was around 150,000. So it was not a small town, but every report I see says that it had a small town feel, right? So it really had low crime, definitely not violent crime. People felt very comfortable and very, very safe there. And I'm saying that because I'm not sure how many murders this deputy has encountered, if any. All right. So some of his actions moving forward are not ideal looking back on, but or even the way they kind of handle the scene, but it is what it is. So, excuse me, guys, we have about 18 inches of yellow pollen on the ground in North Carolina right now. I can't like clear my throat or get a breath. Is it like that where you are?
I'm immune to pollen, so I don't really pay attention. I mean, I notice that there's dust everywhere, but
my vehicle is black and it is yellow. Like it's just covered in yellow. Anyway, so I apologize that I'm clearing my throat.
No, I took some True Grit and some intestinal fortitude before I came in tonight, so cute. I'm ready to go. Cute. I feel good.
That's cute. So she calls 911. An officer comes out and he's going to assess the situation. She tells him she thinks maybe there's a burglary. The first room is a bit disheveled. I'm done with last row for tonight. Up, call it quits, last row. And he's on fire tonight. I know.
He's so good, dude. I've been biting my tongue all night. I just can't do it anymore.
I'll ignore him. And so the officer gets there. He starts to look around. Well, he lets, and I guess if you're thinking maybe it's a general welfare check, it's not necessarily terrible. He did. We know he probably shouldn't have, but he lets the mother-in-law walk in with him as he's kind of assessing the house. Okay. So they see the living room that's disheveled. Some drawers are out. Some things are on the ground. He turns a corner in the hallway and he opens up a bedroom door and he looks in. It's Cheryl and John's bedroom door. He looks in and I'm sure he makes a certain kind of face. He says later that as he turned the corner, he smelled the unmistakable scent of blood. When he looked in the room, his face falls. The mother-in-law, looks at him and said, "What's the matter? Is she dead?" And he said, I can't even say it. He said, "See for yourself." And he didn't say it hateful.
Dark,
but
dude.
I really think, I've thought about this so much. I really think he was in shock. I am quite sure he's not seen anything like this before. I do think he just kind of froze and just said, "See for yourself." Like, I think he froze. She proceeds to look in there. We're going to talk about what she sees. They basically then proceed down through the house together. They're both seeing the crime scene at every turn. Instead of ushering her out at that point, like, nope, get out. She's up and down the hallway, looking in and out of rooms. So she's seeing things that she shouldn't see at all. Meaning the bodies of her daughter-in-law and her 2 grandchildren. So when she walks into Cheryl's room, Cheryl has her nightgown on. They have a water bed. Okay. This is important because she's face down. She's been beaten in the face with what is later to be determined as a metal pipe that's about a half an inch in diameter. Beaten to death there. Over the bed on the wall was paint, words written in paint, a beige or white paint that say "die bit," B-I-T. Now, a lot of reports say that it says "die bitch." The original reports don't say that. It says "die B-I-T," as though maybe someone got startled in the moment, had to stop mid writing. I don't know. We'll come back to the paint. It's very important. There's a lot more to do with paint as well in terms of the crime scene. So Cheryl is face down on the bed. Again, she's clothed in her nightgown, beaten in the face with a metal pipe to death. But the water bed had been turned to its highest setting, so it was extremely hot, causing her to decompose more rapidly.
Right.
So then they go down the hall to the kiddos' rooms. Tyler, the 6-year-old, is also face down in his pajamas. He suffered the same as his mother. He died the same way. And there was this to me was a big tell, but there was a pillow over his face. And then moving down the hall again, we find the baby's room, and Jennifer's in the crib. She also was laying on her, with her back up, laying on her belly, but she had been asphyxiated. She'd been strangled with the cord of a blind. So that's how she died. All right. So moving forward, when you walk in, the front door has that, rectangular glass that you can kind of see into the home with.
Mm-hmm.
The inside of that glass had been painted with that white beige paint. So we assume so no one can kind of see in maybe as they're walking by. All right. So then there's paint kind of everywhere. So there are paint tracks on size 11 shoes. Very, very noticeable paint tracks on size 11 shoes. You can tell the pattern of the sole, etc. The interesting point to this is as you walk through on the carpet, the paint doesn't decrease. It's the same consistency of paint, from when whomever walks in until they get through the house. As though they've said it looks as though he's almost painting the soles of his shoes to keep walking. It's looking more and more staged as time goes on. They're saying it was glossy. I mean, it's
like I have stepped in paint and then walked through my kitchen and been like, fuck. And then it's the same beautiful.
This was carpet.
Print.
Carpet would absorb more.
Yeah. But I mean, I would get some paint on your shoes and go walk around the carpet. I bet you they'd be shocked about how far that shit goes.
Well, it goes far. I mean, you're going to leave a track for a long time, but the fact that it was just more than one investigator said it was just odd to see it didn't change consistency at all. I mean, it stands to reason the carpet's going to absorb it somewhat, not that it's
why would the dude fucking paint his shoes before he took a step? I mean, he would have to be a balancing magician. Take a step, pick your foot up, paint it, put your foot back down.
You wouldn't have to paint it every single step.
And then you'd have to hold the paint in one hand. You'd have to hold a brush in the other hand.
It's not that hard. It's not that hard to hold a 5-gallon can of paint. And
you've got a metal pipe that you've killed somebody with that you got to hold too.
Well, maybe you've put that down.
There's a reason why.
Now you're done doing that, and now you're setting the scene.
Why would the motive? What would be the motive? What would be the purpose?
I would imagine if you don't want someone to think that you live there, that whoever did this lived there. We'll talk about it. So
okay.
So the paint is just one very odd thing. So the inside of the glass on the door was painted like the words "die" BIT bit on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
That was actually brought into evidence. They cut out a 5 by 10 foot section of the wall to bring in to trial. So another thing that was very strange is the door to the garage inside the house was open. So the internal door that would look into the garage is open. The garage door itself is shut. So when you look into there, you can see some stuff's going on with Cheryl's car. Her car was, the hood was up, and there was a battery charger hooked to her battery. However, upon testing, her battery was not dead. So it doesn't seem to stand to reason that that she would have a battery charger on her car, right? The trunk was belongings from the home. They've not gotten super specific on all of those, but it was full of just random stuff. There was stuff piled on top of the car as well. I think the one more telling aspect of all of this is the back door to get inside. So picture the door plate that connects the door to the jam, right? The flat plate with the screws. The door had been made to look pried open at the latch, but upon pried open to where it came off the hinges, or it had been pried and kicked. Okay. And it was off the hinges, right? But the screws were clean. There was no pulp, no wood, no matter. They had been unscrewed. The plate had been unscrewed. You can only unscrew it from the inside of the home. The plate had been unscrewed on the door, and the door kicked to the side. But again, with pry marks on the latch, to appear as though it had been pried open and kicked. But that door was the first indicator that this looked like a staged crime scene. And then the paint on the shoes, the way that was. We talked about the waterbed being turned all the way up. The heat in the house was turned all the way up. All of the pictures, all of the family pictures in the home were turned to face the wall. Super weird. So, moving forward, this is what they see. They start making phone calls, start trying to figure things out. The timeline that I told you about is what we have. So the last hard time we have on John is 10:30 p.m. when he was at the police station paying his speeding ticket. And then we have a McDonald's receipt from 7 o'clock in the morning there in the town that his conference was taking place at. So we don't have anything hard that puts him in Springfield 90 miles away overnight. We also don't have anything hard that keeps him at the conference either, for that matter. Right. The only thing that did happen, unfortunately for prosecution, the one witness they had was a gentleman who worked at the local convenience store in Springfield where the murders took place. And he stated, his witness statement initially was that he ID'd John's face and his red Mustang at around, I think his thing had changed like 3 times his story. I think it started at 1 p.m. and then 1 a.m., overnight that Saturday into Sunday. Then he said, no, it was 3:30. Then he said, no, it was 4. And he was the big witness for prosecution. He was really what they had to put John there in Springfield overnight around the course, when the murders would have taken place. And then we find out later, unfortunately, that this dude didn't even clock in to work until 6 o'clock in the morning. So he fell through. Who knows why he lied about that. But that's really all they had. So in terms of evidence, or in terms of really anything to tie John to the crime other than his character being terrible, we don't really have anything. They did charge him, though. So they charged him. It took about 14 months to get an indictment. In that 14 months, he lived in the home. He didn't get rid of the waterbed. He didn't clean up the paint. There were some reports, some of this is hearsay, but that he, like the blood wasn't actually properly clean. And his reasoning, his rationale, when he was asked multiple times about this. How can you do this? And, how can you even possibly spend a night there? And he just said something about the memories, that he felt like if he moved, he would lose the memories. Where I would argue that the only memories there are those of your children being slaughtered in their home, and any good memories you can have anywhere else you go of your family.
No, so we ruled out that, like, if the dude's fucking a bunch of married chicks,
like a husband,
could this not been like a scorned husband that was like, I know he's at that conference and I know he's probably banging my wife?
It could be. I feel like it doesn't make sense, though, in victimology. Like, it doesn't make sense turning the family pictures around, putting a pillow over the boy's face. That seems very familiar. The children, it'd be one thing to kill the wife to get retribution. The children, I'm not so sure about.
Yeah, it's true. Like, you'd have to be like, I mean, you'd probably go kill him.
I still don't understand.
You wouldn't go kill the family.
I mean, you might kill the wife if you were that angered, like just to hurt him. I mean, maybe, but not the children. Again, don't forget that door coming off, like being unscrewed to be made to look like it had been kicked in. It's that's very interesting to me. The pain is very interesting. So we also find out that so it takes 14 months to get again. He's living in that home. Yes, John, I'm going to get to that in one moment. He was living at home the whole time, and he goes to trial. So it was a jury of 8 men and 4 women. It took 3 days to pick the jury. I would assume that I don't do the man-woman thing a whole lot, but there are some times when I think it does make a difference. And in this jury selection, I do think it would have. I think had it been a little bit more women-heavy, potentially, we'll see. But John's making some good points here in the chats. So they returned a verdict in, I think it was like 5 hours, which was not guilty. Now, I will tell you that they later have come back, many of the jurors, to say I don't think he was innocent. They have almost all said that conclusively. I don't think he was innocent. However, per our justice system, you are innocent until proven guilty, and they did not feel that prosecution could prove the case. They did not think it was within, beyond a reasonable doubt.
Do we have the murder weapon?
No. Mm-mm.
So, I mean, I feel like, so what did homeboy, I mean, that's a lot of work to be done. You're going to leave a conference, at 10 o'clock at night. And then that
too
puts
easy.
you
He was
home.
He was less than an hour and a half away. Boop. Oh, so let me tell you this: that McDonald's receipt for 7 o'clock in the morning, when he was first questioned, it's kind of like Alec saying that he forgot he was at the kennels before Maggie and Paul died for 2 years. John stated that he woke up around 9 o'clock that morning because he had to be at a speaking event at like 10 a.m. or so in Springfield, something like that. So he maintained that story for a while. Every single person that knows him, when asked this question, like a character witness, said that he never woke up earlier than he had to. In fact, he was known to be kind of rolling in at the last second, if not late to most things, and he was not an early riser. So he would not wake up earlier than he had to be to some speaking engagement at 10. That said, he said he woke up at 9 or whatever time he said he woke up. And then they have this McDonald's receipt. And then he said, oh, yeah, I forgot. That morning I got up at 6:30 and grabbed breakfast. And all of his friends were kind of like, doesn't sound like him. He said that it wasn't just a McDonald's, his speaking event. In fact, the authorities and people who believe that he actually did commit this say that this was him coming back into town from being gone all night, committing these murders, and getting some food and going back to the hotel. Right?
Yeah, that's wild. That's like I mean, and Murdaugh, like Murdaugh murders or whatever. I can't imagine where you're at in your life where you could kill your kids.
No. Well, listen.
Like,
so there's more.
I just don't get it.
Yeah, it gets weird. Ask somebody, hey, where the chats would be is like doing something weird. Is it doing something weird on your end? Or is it like normal? It's just saying that we're uploading, you and I. Can everybody hear and see us, right? Is it fine?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. I don't have the chats anymore. Like when
you gotta go back up to comments. Click comments. Go at the top and hit comments.
Yeah, but I don't know. So no, I see. I'm doing it. We're back. Okay. I just want to make sure I wasn't like lagging or something.
All right, so it gets crazier?
So super. Well, it gets really yuckier.
Okay.
So the little boy, okay, one of the things real quick in terms of crime scene investigation and how this went, what they didn't do, they did not check for fingerprints on the crib where the baby found murdered, and they did not check for fingerprints on the head of Tyler, the son's bed.
Okay.
So there's that. They didn't check for any blood in any, or to wash off any blood. That there was
your internet's like going like really bad in and out. So what you're saying is that while your internet catches up, they didn't run for fingerprints on the crib. And what did they do with the blood?
They didn't. Am I back? Am I good?
Yep.
They didn't check for blood in any of the drains of the home, any sinks or bathtubs.
Huh. I mean, I guess if they're not
anyway,
used to
that's just
processing murder scenes.
Right. Exactly. So, okay. Also, do you remember those woven belts back in the 90s, and like you'd like buckle them and then like tie it and not leave it hanging down?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So John was known, as so many people were, to wear one of those at that time. That's what he wore every day. Well, when authorities get to the crime scene, there is one of those belts that is like rolled up on the counter, like kind of perfectly so on the kitchen counter, right?
Right.
If you go back to the footage of him being pulled over, there's footage of him when he was pulled over for that speeding ticket the night of the con when he was with the lady. He leans forward to reach for his credentials or his license or whatever. And you can see that he has on a woven belt, right? It's kind of hanging down the front of his pants. Well, that's fine. Plenty of people had him, right? The day when they found at the crime scene again, they're rolled up on the kitchen counter. When they went to bring him in on charges, he was not wearing a woven belt, nor could he produce one. He actually asked for it. In case in his hotel, it wasn't in anywhere he was staying at. So they've never been able to find his belt. So the theory from a lot of folks, people who work the case and otherwise, is that he walked in, they were all in bed, and the theory is that he basically disrobed, like he took his clothes off so he wouldn't get dirty or bloody in the kitchen, to just so did what he had to do. There's some inconsistency, some harking on the fact that he wore a size 12 shoe and the shoe and paint were a size 11. I could care less. If your let's say that if he did it, staging a scene, too easy to grab a pair of shoes not your size for that exact reason. I'm not really, that doesn't bother me at all or deter me.
Right, like go
from,
size
you know,
9
could have
though.
been
Like
him,
go size 9. Don't go like size 11.
Oh,
It's super close to your
I
own
know.
feet.
But you know what I mean? Like when some people are like, well, it couldn't have been him. That's a different size shoe. Well, it doesn't make any sense at all.
No, if it was like a size
so
9 tromping through the house, yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
So the belt was another interesting point, again, because they never ever found his. Now, where I said it gets luckier, the little boy, upon doing blood work of the bodies, Tyler, the 6-year-old, was found to be positive for hepatitis B. Now, hepatitis B is a bloodborne pathogen that is only transferred body fluids that contain blood or semen, vaginal secretions, etc., or, you know, a shared needle. So many years ago, transfusions, vaccinations, maybe if you're not looking at drug use, that's very unlikely in the mid-90s. It can happen. People would be more concerned with some sort of implicit sexual activity with the boy. They, upon the autopsy, did find that that there was dilation to the anus and that there was some old scar tissue. So it certainly speaks to he had probably been abused. Now, no one else in his immediate family tested positive for Hep B, including his father. So this is one of those things where one of the theories is that whoever was doing this to the child came back and killed the whole family. I am a bit under the suspicion that unfortunately these are just two separate bad events, that the kid had been molested and then separately his family. I don't necessarily think that they are connected. Some people said that, well, whoever did this probably had Hep B. Well, the kid didn't contract Hep B the night of his death. It takes on average around 8 or 9 weeks for it to show up in the blood once you are infected. So he wouldn't have just gotten infected the night of his. And like I said, there was some old scar tissue there. So whatever had happened to that child had either was current or it had been a while since it happened, but it had been happening previously.
Gosh, I feel like you need to take your case there and try to figure out who was molesting this kid. Like when you start questioning where this kid was at. How old was this kid?
Right. 6.
Yeah. Like we need to fucking figure out what church he's going to, what school is. It's probably start with the church.
Yeah. Oh, so moving forward, John was tried and found not guilty again. The jurors say that they do not, but there was not a case that could prove it to them. So John says, craziest theory I heard, dad was going to sex parties and take it with him. I read that as well. There were a couple of things about that. There was one that said that there was a grandparent who refused to submit their DNA sample. I'm not sure or their blood sample. Some of that gets in the weeds because I'm not sure, but I did absolutely read that, John, and it's terrible. I don't know though, with his dad's behavior. It's just really when someone acts the way this guy acts, that does not equal murderer, right? It doesn't have to anyway. But man, does it not make you want to think it was him. So he moves forward. He uh, lives in that house for quite a while after he was found not guilty. And then eventually just felt like he had a bullseye on his head back home. He moves to start as a missionary in some like fundamental belief, something he starts there. He gets remarried and has a daughter.
What?
And there he stays.
After all that, somebody fucking like this guy's got a 10-inch dong.
But this isn't a big famous
to the left.
case.
Huh?
This isn't a big famous case. So someone in Ecuador wouldn't have necessarily known.
Oh, it was in Ecuador that he finds love.
He moved to Ecuador.
So he marries an Ecuadorian chick?
Yes.
I'm assuming.
And he started a missionary there and also taught. So I read some like interviews with, people who are currently or who had been his students.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man.
So anyway, so it's considered unsolved. A lot of people will say that they feel like it didn't get the attention it deserved once he was found not guilty. And then a lot of other people will say, well, I think that authorities were pretty set on the fact that it was him. And once he was found not guilty, you can't try him again. And it was kind of done. I read some things from someone who claims to have been a detective on the case. Maybe he was, I don't know. But this gentleman did say that there was so much that didn't come out in the trial. Basically, he was like, this 100% he did it. Like there was so much that was not disclosed or, the trial was privy to. It is what it is. It's like,
that was the whole thing with the OJ trial. It's like, yeah, they knew 100% that OJ killed him, but the fucking, we're also like pro defense that, they retard the trial so much by not allowing certain things in and, because this knife with OJ's handprints are all over it, but because it was put in this bag in the improper way, it doesn't get to be shown to the jury, but like it absolutely proves that he fucking killed her, So I get that, man. That is, I found another picture of the family. I'm going to bring it up here really fast.
The whole family.
Yeah. Here's the picture of the whole family because his wife was pretty good looking. She's not a dog.
Sad. Ugh. And that little boy. Oh my god.
Killed the boy. What a creepy piece of shit, though.
Well, and just the life that child had, like the life that kid had. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. What a sad case. I wish we knew more about the boy.
I know.
Can they not like unbury this boy and try to find some DNA in his ass or something like that they can 23 and
no, because they didn't find it. They didn't find it then. The technology was there then for at least if there had been. What I didn't touch on was a hair found on her gown that did not match John's, and there was a gray found on a paintbrush that did not match John's either.
There was a what? A gray?
That didn't match his DNA. And John's talking about a wrongful death suit. There was her family put on a wrongful death suit that he eventually got dropped. But let me talk about why they thought they had a motive. He had increased like 4 months for life insurance. Which here's the deal. While that's shady or can be on the surface, people just do that. People adjust life insurance plans. And then if somebody dies, that doesn't mean they killed them. Like this can happen. But he had adjusted the life insurance plan. Also, he claims when the crime scene was investigated, her purse was missing. And like it was made to look ransacked, but really when you look closely, anything that belonged to John was like stacked, like pulled out of the drawers and stacked, like his files. They were like pulled out, drawers left open, but stacked, orderly. So her purse was missing, but all of the cash, money, everything else was still at home. No taken. It was very much staged to look like a robbery, but nothing was actually taken. Now, John claims that over 300 items were stolen, and insurance did not find him fraudulent in their debt. They offered him the money off of the insurance claim of the over 300 items he said were stolen from the home. So,
Wow, what a piece of shit.
and Mike is
I mean, the
asking
fact that
for a warrant for owner of DNA evidence. Huh?
What's that?
Well, other people were talking about the DNA. Again, keep in mind, we did have DNA technology that could have tested for semen when they examined the little boy's body. So semen there would have been found had something happened that night. If things had happened much prior, we wouldn't have found that anyway. So that you really can't harken on DNA for that if it had been days or however long before, since he had been abused.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy.
I
feel like they should. The fact that he went down to Ecuador and got remarried, man. Fuck, I feel sorry for that woman.
True. Damn. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a wild case. I can't believe that it hasn't been solved, but I don't know, man. You'd think like with all the cold case technology that there would be some way they could revisit this and look at it from another angle and say like, all right, hey.
And that's the thing.
Is that crib still in evidence? Like, where's that crib at?
Well, exactly. And that's what we've talked about before, because, if you go,
I guess it doesn't matter because if they know that he did it, it's not a cold case. What they're saying is that this motherfucker did it, so we don't need to go find anybody else. Like, we know 100% he did it. We just put together a shitty case because we don't do that many homicide cases.
Right.
And so we fucked up. So, like, that's just it.
Double jeopardy.
And at that point, we should just go kill that motherfucker.
You want to go to Ecuador? South America's nice this time of year.
You pay the ticket, I'll go do the deed. Then I'm going to have the best sex of my life afterwards. Justified murder sex. Fuck yeah. I'll let you know how it goes. I'll let you know if it's as good as the hype. I'll let you know if it lives up to the hype after I go to McDonald's.
I still haven't found... You weren't go to McDonald's. I wasn't. You weren't here last week, but Bones and now John is implicated with me if they turn out to be human. But I'm still waiting to hear back from the president of the anthropology department at the college here.
Wait, you found Bones?
See if they'll take my bones. I found Bones.
What kind? Where did you find Bones?
On the beach.
Are they humans?
That's what I'm trying to determine.
Why are you looking at human bones on the beach? Who'd you fucking...
I don't think they are. I think that they're probably from a pig. I think there was a pig picking and we're going to call it a day. But it smells really bad.
This would be the second cold case that you've solved in Wilmington.
It smells so bad. And there was a guy that went missing here a few weeks ago in the water, and it was kind of some really weird circumstances. And now stuff's washing up, and that's the only thing that makes me feel weird about all of this. But I think it was a pig. But I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. You could solve a second case.
Says, I showed the bones last week on the show, and John said, "What is that? A snake's finger?" And that's what he just put in the comments.
Yeah, where do you have the bones? Just at your house?
They're now on my front porch. I brought them in to show them to John after the show last week, and then when I put a paperclip in the marrow, I almost vomited, and I had to take them back out because they smell so bad.
Why? I mean, did you call the cops or anything and say that you found bones?
No, I'll drop them off.
You could have just fucked up this crazy murder case.
No, they were washed up on the beach. It wasn't a crime.
Dude, okay, so here's the true crime episode that some other 40-year-old lipstick wearing true crime girl is gonna be like, and so this lady was walking down the beach and she found the bones, and get this, here's where it gets weird. She took the bones home, stating they smelled so bad, and she actually poked them in the bone marrow and almost made herself vomit. Is that fucking crazy? And the other guy's going to be like, why would this stupid bitch take bones home? She didn't call the police. Oh, here's the kicker. She's a true crime podcaster. Like, no way.
I think they're pig bones.
What?
I think it's a pig femur and a pig tibia. That's my guess.
You should have called the police.
It's not a crime scene. It wasn't. They were
how is it not a crime? You found human bones. That's a crime scene.
I didn't say human. I think they're pig bones. I think somebody had a pig picking. They got a little wild. They threw the bones out. They washed up. I think that
you thought that there was a possibility enough that they were human bones that you took them home with you.
I didn't bring them home because I thought they were human. I thought they were cool.
You just wanted to have some
the kids
pig
would think
bones?
they were cool. I thought that the kids would think they were cool because I found some other really good like beach stuff. So I just brought it all. I didn't think they were human.
Oh my God. Oh.
They're not human. They're not human.
Then why did you start the whole thing off
not.
with they could be human?
Because then when I was going to John, I remembered that the guy went missing 3 weeks ago and now his stuff is starting to wash up. And then I started thinking about it.
My God, man. My God.
They're not human.
And now I'm accessory to the crime because I know about it. You tampered with a crime scene. For all I know, you killed this guy.
It wasn't
now
a
you're
crime
harboring
scene.
his
It's not
bones.
a crime scene. When they wash up, it's not a crime scene.
It is absolutely a crime scene when
One
bones
was in the
wash
rocks
up.
and one was like 15 feet down the way by the little urchins.
This is ridiculous. I can't even believe.
They're
I don't
pig
even
bones.
know why we're friends. Yeah. Are you going to get them tested?
Yeah, that's why
What
I
if this-
emailed the anthropology department.
Oh my God. Why wouldn't you just call the police and say, I found some bones. I'm not, I think
will.
they're pig bones, but I know that there's this asshole
Okay.
missing and I may have his bones on my front porch. Sorry, but they're covered in
Okay.
pollen. As Greg
I think
mentioned.
they're a little too like robust. They're in a Ziploc bag because they smell too bad. I'm not unziplocking
God.
it either. It's terrible.
They're in a Ziploc bag. You're the most batshit crazy person I've ever met. Who the fuck finds bones on the beach and thinks it's cool that stink to put them in a Ziploc bag and to
I
take
didn't
them
know they
home?
stunk when we were outside.
What's wrong with you?
I didn't know they stunk till I got home, and then I had to get back in my car, and then I was like, "Oh."
I don't know. I'm gonna go home and watch out.
They're pig bones. Stop.
The fact that it doesn't matter if they're pigs or not. The fact that you took bones off the beach is good. On last call, we just talked about a woman who tried to fly back to Detroit, Michigan, from her little beach trip, and it was discovered that she had the skull of a dolphin in her luggage. And they were like, "Why the fuck do you have a skull of a dolphin?
Why
It's
is that
protected
bad?
animal. You can't have a dolphin skull in your bag because
That's
it's like
stupid.
anti-poaching stuff. You cannot have the bones like an eagle, like a bald eagle's bones. Like you cannot have be in possession.
Because you find them, you can't have them.
Because then there's no way if they make it blanket where you can't have them, you can't possess them. Then poachers can't just be like, well, I found fucking bald eagle bones. Now I'm going to sell them on the black market. If they say, no, it's illegal to have it, period. You cannot possess protected animal bones. Then you can't use that as an excuse that you found it. You just can't have it. That makes total sense.
Do not get on a high horse. You literally asked me if I like the taste of bald eagle in front of a bunch of children one time.
Yeah, but I didn't eat the fucking bald eagle in front of them. You took the bones.
I didn't take bald eagle bones. These are pig bones.
No, but you took human bones.
They're pig.
Okay, agree to disagree. You haven't been tested. Prove it. You know what I mean? Gross. You're gross. You've got decaying
smell so
corpse
bad.
bones on your porch. How fucked
They're
up are
in
your
a
kids right now? Like, do they stare at it when they walk inside? Like, are they having nightmares?
Mm-mm.
My kids would never shut the fuck up about it, to be honest with you. They would be like, Dad, are the bones still on the porch?
No, they're used
Are they
to
human
doing weird
bones?
stuff.
Their kids are just numb to your bullshit. It's mom and her bones.
I was like, smell, they're terrible. And they were like, yeah. I said, smell them, they smell horrible. And they were like, no. And they just walked inside.
Yeah.
They didn't care.
Yeah, they're like, what kind of satanic shit's our mom into now? Now we've got human bones decaying on our front porch. And
Not with a tibia and a femur. It's not even fun bones. All right.
Yeah, God. I don't even know why we're friends. Okay, I'm done. My co-host is harboring crime scene evidence, and we're true crime podcasters, and this is going to be a true
Sean
crime.
Kelly says if you leave it under your pillow, the murder fairy pays you a visit.
Oh, God. All right, guys. Well, from myself and my felon co-host, Andrea Uplate, until next time, guys. Cheers.
Good night, y'all.